Hey there, friends and enemies. JoPaWrites here once again, and today I have another brand new Destiny 2 video. This one is going to be showing off my rankings of all the Titan exotic armor pieces in the game right now, heading into Season of the Splicer. If you enjoy the video, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. Those of you want to see more content like this. Also, if you see in the upper right-hand corner, we've got a St. Jude charity event going on right now, and we are raising money live on the Twitch channel. We'll also have a link to the event down below in the description. So spread the word on that if you can, but I'm just gonna jump into it. Now, I'm going to rank these F to S tier in my personal opinion. I hope you don't disagree too much, but obviously this is going to be something that is going to be a little up and down depending on the person, how they use the exotics, but this is my thoughts on them, not only in PvP and PvE, all around, maybe in Gambit, harder content like raids and Grandmasters. So I'm taking that all into account when I'm doing my ranking. Now, starting off, we're going to go with the Insurmountable Skull Fort. This one is so much fun in PvP. Throw it on, shoulder charge, automatically regenerates. It doesn't work as well if you're playing Iron Banner or Trials, especially if someone else is higher light level than you, because you won't one-hit melee with your shoulder charge all the time. However, this is a very, very fun one, but it's not the best. It's one of those exotics that I really love to use, but unfortunately just doesn't get the amount of love that I think it could get if it was just a little bit better, but then it might be a little bit broken. So I think this is in the B tier for me because of the fun factor. Not every exotic is going to be overpowered, and not every exotic is going to be awesome, but this one is a lot of fun, so that's why I'll throw it in the Mask of the Quiet One. This is a little bit of an underdog. I like this ability, this exotic, a lot. When critical, heal on kills, and then gain ability energy when you're damaged. I am a guardian, a titan who likes to have his abilities up as much as possible. I'll run Traveler's Chosen quite often. I run a lot of perks to have my melee, my grenade back as often as possible. This one's not so bad. However, I think in the grand scheme of things, it's not that great either. It could definitely use a bit of love, though I don't know how they would do that without, again, making it too crazy. This one I'm going to say is a D tier exotic. I don't see it being very useful, but it is what it is. Hopefully it gets a buff in the future. I know they've been tinkering with exotic armor pieces in the past, so this is one I really hope gets a little bit more shine in the future. Caprice Horn. This one is going to probably cause a stir because nobody uses this that I know, and it's ugly as sin. However, I really enjoy it. I run it from time to time, and it is hilarious. If you don't know how this works, solar kills recharge a solar blast barricade. I run this with a full kitted solar build with like Sunshot or Devil's Rune or something like that, and I use the barricade all the time. It's more effective than you might think. I'm gonna put this, because of my personal fun factor, I'm gonna put this B tier because I think it's, I'm sorry, C tier, because I think it's better than some people give it credit for, but it's so situational. That being said, like I said, it's a lot of fun. Helmholtz 14. This is a classic from Destiny 1, and it's something that I really wish I used more often. It's useful in some raids. It was nice in the Crown of Sorrow raid, but it's not as useful as it could be, especially when you have other exotics that just work a little bit better. So Helmholtz 14, I think, is another one that, although I personally really enjoy it, it's gonna fall in the C tier as well. It's just not that great. The overshield is really, really good, so I like it for that. Actually, I'll throw it in the B tier. I like the overshield. The blinding of the enemies is very, very situational. It really helps. It's just you can't really use it in PvP. If you do, you're wasting your exotic the majority of the match. And yeah, I just don't know if it's as good as it once was in D1, and that's a bit of a shame. So then we've got Eternal Warrior. This is the ugliest helmet I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't know anybody who wears this. Casting Fist of Havoc grants an overshield. Not really necessary. Your shield is high enough with Fist of Havoc already, so this is very, very situational. I'm gonna say this of all the exotics, going all the way down. I wish it was better, although it is ugly, and I probably wouldn't wear it even if it was. That being said, yeah, it's one of the worst exotics for the Titan because it's so situational. Doesn't really come in handy in PvE or PvP, and it doesn't provide the fun factor that other exotics do. Now we were moving on to One-Eyed Mask. This is the one that created a huge stir back in the day in PvP. Not quite as strong as the one was, but it's still good. This one is going to fall on the B tier for me because it's still a solid exotic, especially if you want to be annoying in PvP. It is useful in PvE at times. You could use it, but there's a lot of better options. That being said, it isn't as broken as it once was. Back in the day when it was at its peak, this would have been S tier. It was almost a must use in competitive PvP, and it was absolutely unreal. The advantage you would get from using this in PvP was so broken. Now it's more of an annoyance for most people going against it rather than a broken armor, and so that's why it falls in here. We're going to Precious Scars, another ugly Titan helmet. I don't know what they were thinking of when they designed this one, but oh, good lord. Revives grant overshields. This is again a super situational exotic. I don't see this being used very rarely at all. Even in trials where that's where it's supposed to shine, or something like a raid, nobody uses this because there's just better options, and that's really, really unfortunate. I'm gonna put this in D tier because I think there is a place for it, but it's so rare and so situational, and there's just, like I said, better options almost all the time. So Precious Scars is one that I think could use a bit of a buff, but I don't see it happening just because of the way the exotic works, unless they rework it like they did the Aeon set. Now we go to the ACO feedback fence. I think it's D0, but you get the point. This one is going to be a tier. Now, the reason for this is when you get in the thick of it and you want to punch like a Titan, this one is really fun. So is defensive energy. Again, if you are a Titan who likes to go in, punch shotgun or punch sidearm or punch, right up close and do the Titan thing, this exotic can be a blast. And most people don't expect it because I don't think it's run enough. I don't think it gets the credit it deserves. So I would say this is an A tier Titan exotic. I've run it quite a bit, and it's way more effective than people would think. So that's just my opinion on that one. I think it could be a little bit more widely used, if I'm being honest. I don't see it often enough. I used to see it a lot, but not nowadays. You don't really see it as often. So then we go to the Doomfang Pauldron. This one is very, very nice in PvE content, especially if you're doing general strikes or something like that, and you're just mowing through enemies. Seasonal activities, if it's on a void burn, throw this on. You're going to have the extra shield. You're going to have the void melee kills, give super energy. So if you're running the right tree, then you have your shoulder charge. It works out really, really well. I used to run this in Reckoning a lot, and I would have my super so fast it was unreal. Now, I'm going to throw this again in the A tier because of that. It's not really as useful in PvP, but it's not terrible in PvP either. It can be used. And I don't see a lot of people using it in PvP, but again, it's one of those things that getting your super faster in PvP is huge. And then also having that extra shield throw, especially with the tracking and the shields, can be really, really handy. So I think that's why I think this is the A tier exotic personally, even if might not. Synthoceps. I see a lot of people running Synthoceps. Being surrounded buffs damage, buffs melee range. Again, another exotic based around the Titan punchy boy aspect, and it's good. It's really, really good. Now, I'm going to have some people disagree with me because I don't really care for this one as much as Other folks, I think it's good, and I wish I liked it a little bit more, but there's other things that I prefer. So I'm gonna throw some P here. I know a lot of people will prefer this over the feedback fence or maybe the Doomfangs. Personal opinion, I don't like this one as much as those. So yeah, it's good. The extra melee range is nice, especially if you are coming up short a lot, which I know a lot of Titans do, but I've kind of got it down pretty well. So I don't really need this as much, and so it doesn't come in as it kind of throws off my rhythm a little bit if I'm Aeon safe. This used to be F tier all the way, and then now A tier, especially when you consider Gambit. If you play Gambit at all, this set is fantastic. You can generate so much ammo for your teammates. It's unbelievable. Same thing in other content when you're able to use these gauntlets effectively. This is crazy. The rework they did to the Aeon set is one of the things I would love to see them do more of. When an exotic is either underperforming or not providing the punch that they would like it to, and just there's no way to rework it in a way like just simply buff it in a way that's going to make it effective. Sometimes you just need to change things up, kind of alter the plans with it, and it'll shine in its own right. Stacking this set as well is a lot of fun. If you haven't done that, I highly recommend doing so because it is a blast and it makes content pure shenanigans at the time. Then we've got Ashen Wake, improved fusion grenades. This one gonna be a B tier for me, and the reason for that is it is fun, but not as effective as I wish it was. There's a build you can run with this and the mid tree hammer Titan, Solar Titan, and it's you're just constantly bang, hitting, killing everything in your wake. That being said, if you miss one of your grenades, if you miss your hammer, it really ruins the flow. So this one is a lot of fun. It's great to build around if you're really into the single shot fusion grenades and the hammer. I think it's fantastic, but it's kind of situational, and for that's why I gave it here. I wish I keep saying that a lot in this one because there's a lot of things that I would like to see tinkered with or allowed to shine in specific content. The best scenario is that different exotic pieces are really good in strikes or grandmasters or gambit or PvP, but not as good in other places. Whereas sometimes you get certain exotics that are just good everywhere, and then others that just struggle. So that's why I keep saying I wish things were a little bit different. Then we've got Worm God Caress melee kills, increased melee damage. Again, as a Titan, feeds into your Titan punchy boy aspect of that. And this one is fun. I do enjoy rocking the Worm God Caress. I think it's again in the B tier because if you can get kind of in the thick of it and punch a lot of things, it can be a lot of fun. But with shotguns being as strong as they are and quick draw still being active, I know with Season of Splicer it's going to be changed, but it makes it hard to go on those streaks with your melee as a Titan compared to what it was earlier in DQ's lifespan. So that's why this one it won't be as high, and some of these exotics that buff your melee are not going to be as high as they once were because they used to be really, really good. I used to run them all the time, and that's kind of lessened a bit. So that's why I would say that's going to fall in the here as well. Ursa Furyosa. This might get some pushback because of how well it does in some of the end game content, like Grandmaster. This is a S tier. You absolutely need to be running this in Grandmasters and difficult activities, especially if you're under leveled and you need to stay alive. You generate so much orbs for your teammate. We're gonna see next season with a hunter exotic that as they collect orbs, they get there super faster. It's gonna sync so perfectly with this. now that you can have a Titan with this and then a Hunter with those exotic legs on. So S tier for me, no doubt about it. Ursa Furyosa is one of the best exotics in the game. Not as much for PvP, but it's so good in PvE that you can't really overlook it. And absolutely 100% necessary. So if you're not rocking Ursas in those difficult content, try it out. I think you'll be genuinely pleased. Stronghold. This is one that I want to love, and I've tried to make so many builds around. I posted them on YouTube. I like them in general, but I think this is it. Honestly, I guard with swords, but not really a lot. I wanted it to be more effective with Lament, and it just didn't feel like it gave me enough of a bonus to the guarding, to be honest. And as swords now have gotten nerfs and you're seeing them less often, you can't really use it in some of the end game content, maybe some of the raids and whatnot. But I just think in general, strongholds, I don't feel the bonus works as effectively as I would hope. So I wish it gave me some kind of like overshield or something like that. So it was a noticeable difference, because it just I barely even noticed a change. I wish these were better, and unfortunately not. So D tier for me. Now I've seen some people really like them. I just can't get into it. So next, this is one which I don't know if everyone's gonna agree, but we've seen it a lot in trials. I think this is a S tier exotic. The reason for that is you can use it in trials if you're sniping or using something like Dead Man's. You can also use it in solo Lost Sector. Very effective to hide behind your barricade, pick off enemies, stay alive, watch the splash damage. But I think this is a absolutely top tier exotic, and it's one that I run really often, especially when I'm running solo content. Sometimes I'll run an endgame PvP, but for the most part, it's solo content is huge, and it's very annoying to play against in PvP as well. So this is one that at its current status, S. Icefall Mantle. Ooh, this is going to be a tough one because I want to love this way more than most people. Now, when I run it with Stasis, I can use the melee of Stasis to get around instead of, because you're slowed by so much. If they would remove that slow by just a little bit, this would be great. That being said, I'm putting it in B tier, and the reason for that, when you now pair it with something like the Heir Apparent, and you have that overshield in this one, it's the tankiest build in the game. So for that reason, and that reason only, I'm putting it in B tier because it's a lot of fun. I use it more often than most people to tank damage when I have to. It's not super effective all the time, but I think it's better than some people give it credit for. And in certain builds, it's absolutely fantastic, and it's so much fun. It's not going to be something you are going to rock in Grandmasters or anything like that. So don't do that, or you might be in a world of hurt. Crest of Alpha Loopy. Passing Barricade heals more orbs from super. This is one that I think is an A tier, and I think it's underrated. Casting Barricade heals in PvP, especially in like survival or something like that, can be super clutch. More orbs from supers in PvE can be really good, especially like I was saying before, paired with that new Hunter exotic. It's going to be very nice. Overall, I think this is a underrated armor piece, one that not enough people are using, and I think it should be used quite a bit more. Now, the healing on the Barricade is something that I think most Titans don't use enough. Not enough people use their barricades effectively, and you get it back so quickly. You should have that wall up all the time, and that's where I think a lot of Titans are kind of slacking. Next, we got Acting War Rig. This one is really good with certain builds. Machine guns aren't as good as they once were, but you can pair it with Xenophage or Heir Apparent or something like that, and it works out really well. So for that reason, this is another A tier. I think it's really good and with certain builds. Not gonna. You can even use it in PvP, although there's better options in PvP, to be honest. Overall, I think this is a really good exotic, and I think it can find its uses a lot of different places, especially if you like to pair an auto rifle with a machine gun, because it'll work on both as you swap between one and the other. So for that reason, if you like auto rifles and machine guns, it's very effective. Unfortunately, legendary machine guns right now are not that great. They're in a way that I wish they were better. I have a swarm that I like, but it's just not doesn't do the job as a DPS weapon or as a heavy weapon in general in endgame content or anything like that. So next we have Hollow Fire Heart. Solar abilities regen faster, even faster if super is charged. Now, this one I think is a C tier. It can be good, but kind of have to not use your super for it to be most effective, and that's not really how I think people should be playing or I want to play in general. So for that reason, that's why I knock it down a peg. I like that you get your solar abilities faster. It's nice. Having your abilities faster is great, but I'm going to explain why in a little bit there are better options for that. Again, with your supercharged, having your solar abilities come faster is a little problematic because at the end of the day, you want to use your super. If you're not using your super in PvP or PvE, you're probably wasting it. So, with the amount of ways to get your super back fast nowadays, it doesn't make sense to hold it for a long time just to get your melee or your um grenade back fast. Armamentarium, this is a solid B tier additional grenade charge. You can run this in with any subclass except for the arc subclass that gets multiple grenades already. You can be very annoying. If you like to spam grenades, this one's very effective. I knocked it down from. I used to think this was A tier. I used to really love it and run it a lot, but I have better options these days. And unless I'm running Stasis, I don't use it as often as I once would, unless I'm going for grenade kills with a certain class. So if I'm doing that, yes, I'll use this quite often just to get extra grenade kills. But I just don't think it's effective in most content consistently. And again, in PvP, it's solid but not spectacular. Heart of Inmost Light. Now, this might be the one that I get the most pushback. ST. The reason for that, it works when you use your barricade. What I was saying earlier, Titans don't use their barricade enough. If you use your barricade and I stick you with a magnetic grenade or something like that, I can one hit kill with that. If you're running certain subclasses, you can get multi kills with that. Guess what then happens? Then you buff your not only do you buff your grenade, but now once you get the grenade kill and you use that, now you get your melee improved as well. You get kills with that. It's a cycle that continues. If you're running something like Traveler's Chosen, just makes it that much better, or Demolitionist, something like that. I think this one is severely underrated, and more people need to be running this. To be honest, I think it's in PvP, it's great. PvE, it's a lot of fun. I had a build I was posted the other day. I was running my Solar Titan. Sun Warrior regenerates your abilities faster. With that, I think it was Bottom Tree Solar Titan. And I always had my abilities. And then because I always had my abilities, I was constantly getting them to be improved. I had just thrown them up constantly, and I barely had to use my gun unless I wanted to. So for that reason, that's why I ranked this so highly, and I think more people. Severance and Closure, powered melee kills and finishers unleash explosions. This is D tier. I hate to say it, but the explosions aren't worth it, like most of the time. This is one I wish was better. Again, finishers, you can kind of pair it with some things if you want to do your finishers often, but There's so many better options, and this is one that I just don't really use ever. I've tried it. I try it in multiple different types of content, and it just does not. Besides for some shenanigan purposes, not do it for me. I just don't think it's all that good. Curse of the Falling Star. Now this one does it. This one I love. I think it is the perfect addition. Something like Nighthawk for the hunters, and this one is another one. I'm gonna say it's A tier. No, I'm gonna go S. Now, the only reason I was questioning a little bit. One, obviously, it's not very good, although it can be helpful, especially if you slam and then you have enemies around you. But the problem is if you get to really high end content like raids, and you're looking at grandmasters and that kind of thing, it's not super effective. If you're doing solo content, it can be very dangerous to run because potentially will get yourself in a problem that you can't get out of, especially if it's harder solo content. That's the only reason I was thinking about bumping it down, but no, it's very good. I love it. Great addition to the game. Lion Ramparts. Now, a lot of people run this. A lot of folks love the enhanced maneuverability. I don't really think it helps me all that much unless I'm doing specific jumping puzzles or something like that. I'm gonna say it's D tier exotic, and I just don't use it all that often. Very situational for me. Peacekeeper. Reload stowed SMGs and allows the ready. There's so many perks that do this job better that this is entirely unnecessary. This is a F tier. I want to like it. I want to use it. I've tried to use it in different content. It's just like it's just a waste, to be honest, and that's really really unfortunate. Now we get to Dune Marchers, faster sprinting, and chain melee. This is the movement exotic that I like because if I'm using a slam of some sort, or if I'm using any of the melee abilities, and you get the chain melee damage, oh, you can be very annoying in PvE, PvP. You can use it often in PvE as well. So this is a tier exotic. I love it. I think it's great. I don't think it's as effective as a lot of other options, even though it's a lot of fun. A tier for me. I love the Dune Marchers, and I run them fairly often. I do really very much like them. Safer shoulder charge abilities. MK44 Standard size. These are, for me, here. Now, I haven't used them in a while, but that's because every time I've used them, I did not think they worked all that well. So that's just my personal opinion. If they receive a buff or if they are better than I thought, yes, let me know. I think they could be better. But the D tier for me, they're just not as good as I wish they were. Moving on, we've got Aunty Awards. Now, these used to be S tier, much like the one-eyed mask. These were fantastic. Now they're okay. C tier. I think they're situational, hard to use if you don't use them all the time. I do like pairing them with Stasis and the extra slide you get for the Titan with that aspect, but honestly, at the end of the day, you don't see these anymore, and the reason for that is they're not that good. Now, deflecting certain abilities and certain weapons is still a lot of fun. So, for that reason, they're still okay to use, but overall, not super effective and really not practical in PvE either. Peregrine Greaves. I loved these for a long time, but these are also going here, and that pains me because I love being able to knock somebody out of their super, one hit kill them with the shoulder charge. But the way that supers are in PvP now, there's not a lot that you'll actually get the chance to do that to, because either you'll get frozen, or you got a warlock up in the air, or you got your hunters who mostly run the supers that they get rid of right away. They don't last very long, so unfortunately not as effective as they once were, especially when you were seeing a lot of like mid-tree Void Hunter, when you're seeing a lot of Nova Warp and that kind of thing. So in PvP content, if you want to throw them on and run it with a solar charge to buff that damage as well, fine, but not the best option, honestly. Phoenix Cradle. Sun Warrior lasts twice as long. Allies who pass through your sunspots are granted Sun Warrior. Now, this one is another underrated. I'm gonna say it's B tier. I wish I ran it more often, to be honest. This is one that I think is solid, does a good job. Sun Warrior lasting twice as long is great. You get your abilities back super fast. But I just think other options do a little bit better job for what I'm looking for. And that's why I don't really run this as often as I might want to. I might do a build around this. If you see an exotic that you want me to build around, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to make more builds around specific exotics that are viable in multiple type of activities. But I want to know that these are the type of exotics that you guys are looking to use in your gameplay. So let me know about that. Again, Phoenix Cradle, B tier. I think it's a solid one. But anyway, that's been my tier list. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. If you disagree, you agree, you think I am sleeping on any of these exotics, definitely let me know. My name is JoPaWrites. This has been a long one, but I hope you had a good one, and I'll catch you later.